Another video. This time we got the famous Dr. Evil, and we are going to be talking about closing costs. No, we're not talking about $100 billion. We're just going to be talking about what it costs to close a mortgage when you're making a purchase. So we're going to keep this one quick. I'll jump right into it. The number one cost, or the first cost that I want to talk about, is appraisal costs. These aren't always mandatory, but if you do need to get an appraisal report done, it's a physical inspection of the property by an accredited appraiser, and they put together a report with photos basically confirming the value of the property. Sometimes lenders want to see this to make sure that you haven't significantly overpaid or significantly underpaid for the property. The appraisal cost can be anywhere from $300 to $500, depending on how quickly you need it, how big the property is, and if you need the appraiser to let the lender know what the economic rental rates are. The second one, interest adjustment. There's usually only one lender that does that, and essentially what that means is it's going to be the interest that's owed from the day your mortgage closes to the first day. So sometimes lenders will have their mortgages start on the first of every month, and if you're closing on the 20th of the month before, you may need to pay that interest for the 10 days before your actual mortgage starts, and then your first payment will come out on the first of the next month. So that could be a couple $100, just to keep that in mind, and sometimes is due at the notary or lawyer's office when you close. The next one is property transfer tax. This is the biggest cost. If you are not a first-time home buyer, and if the property is more than $500,000, you are going to have to pay 1% on the first 200,000 and 2% on the remainder. So just to clarify, first-time home buyers, you've never owned any property before, and the purchase price is under $500,000, you do not pay property transfer tax. If you're not a first-time home buyer, you will be paying property transfer tax. And like I said, 1% on the first 200,000, 2% on the remainder of the price. That is due at the notary or lawyer's office when you pay the rest of your down payment. Legal fees. This is usually the second biggest cost, and this is the fee that you need to pay to a notary or real estate lawyer to execute all the paperwork. Sometimes notaries are a little bit less, sometimes real estate lawyers are a little bit more. I usually recommend people that they have $1,300 set aside for those costs. And like I said, sometimes a notary might be $1,000, sometimes a real estate lawyer might be $1,500. It'll really depend on who you're hiring to do that, as you are responsible for finding your solicitor. The next one is the costs start getting lower and lower after that. Next one is prepaid property tax and utility adjustments. So if I'm selling my home in August and somebody's buying my place from me, chances are I've already paid for the entire year's utilities and property tax. And if you're purchasing in the middle of the month, chances are I've already paid that month's strata fees. You will be required to pay the seller. So if someone was buying my place, they'd have to pay me back for the money that I've prepaid for the year for the months that they will be living there. So September, October, November, December. As a seller, I'm going to get that money back, and you as a buyer are going to have to pay that to me as part of your closing costs. That's part of the fees for hiring a notary or a real estate lawyer. They calculate all of those payments that you'll need to pay to the seller. Property survey. This is just a small fee to the real estate lawyer or notary for preparing the legal description of the property to make sure that everything's registered properly with the title. Title insurance. This is another small cost that you're going to have to pay for the paperwork that's registered with the Land Title Office of BC. And then sales tax. If you are buying a property that is an existing property, it's already built, you do not pay GST. If it's a pre-sale or you're the first person owning the property, you will need to pay GST, 5% of the purchase price. But if the property is under the threshold, you will not need to pay property transfer tax. So You really got to be careful with the pre-sales versus the existing properties. Some will have GST, some won't. Some will have property transfer tax. Some won't, even if you're not a first-time home buyer. So it's really important that you make sure you have money set aside for your closing costs. And again, these are closing costs for a purchase. You are going to have different closing costs if you're selling a property, usually all the same, plus the realty commissions, because you're paying your realtor to sell it, and that realtor is sharing the commissions with the buyer's realtor. So most lenders ask for us to provide bank statements showing that you, a buyer, have access to 1.5% of the purchase price. That's a rough estimate as to how much closing costs are going to be. And as long as you can show that, the lender's okay moving forward with the approval, but you're not going to know the actual dollar amount until the week you go in to meet with your solicitor and finalize the closing. I hope this video has been helpful for you guys and getting a heads up on what those extra costs are going to be when you get to your notary or lawyer's office, because it's not just the rest of your down payment that you need to show up with. There's quite a few other costs, and they'll all be laid out in what's called a statement of adjustments. So I hope you're subscribing to our channel. We're going to start coming out with even more videos as the months go on, and we look forward to hearing from you if you have any questions on a mortgage. Thank you.